Hey guys, tonight we begin somewhere cold, smoky, and a little bit fishy. Your new life as a Viking Shieldmaiden. You wake just before dawn, inside a longhouse packed with snoring bodies, all pressed under fur pelts that have never met a bar of soap. The fire in the central hearth has burned low, leaving only a soft orange glow that flickers over carved wooden beams and hanging herbs. You shift slightly, and a bit of straw stabs your side. Your bed, like everyone else's, is basically hay, hide, and hope. Your nose twitches at the sharp smell of last night's fish stew, still clinging stubbornly to the air. Somewhere in the shadows, someone is already stirring, probably one of the older women tasked with rekindling the fire and yelling at chickens. You're wrapped in a wool tunic that's seen too many battles and not enough rinses. But today is not about comfort. It's another day in the rough, glorious, and occasionally itchy life of a Viking woman who doesn't just stay home weaving. She carries an axe. You sit up slowly, stretch your aching limbs, and glance across the longhouse. There's your cousin Sven, drooling into his beard, your best friend, already lacing her boots, and your goat, Ragna, who is somehow perched on top of the grain barrel again. Historians still argue whether goats were truly welcome inside, or if Viking laziness just enabled them. Either way, Ragna isn't leaving. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop a comment with your location and what time it is where you're watching from. I'm always curious which time zones my fellow sleepy historians are drifting in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You swing your legs over the side of your straw mattress, toes meeting a dirt floor chilled by the night air. The longhouse is quiet, except for crackling embers and a few muffled snores. Someone coughs in the corner. It's either consumption or just a dramatic flair for morning. You pull on your cloak, made of thick wool and lined with bits of fox fur, which you're 90% sure came from the weird fox that used to steal eggs. Outside, the village is still cloaked in dawn's blue-gray mist. Your breath puffs visibly as you step out. The chill bites through your tunic, and you immediately regret not adding another layer. But you're tough. You're Viking tough. You're also not fully awake, and you just stepped in what might have been goose droppings. Ragna follows you out, bleeding dramatically. First task, relieve yourself somewhere that doesn't involve a chamber pot. The communal area is behind the longhouse, next to the firewood pile, and conveniently near the compost pit. You crouch, shiver, and contemplate how much you miss toilets, if you even know what those are. Someone passes by and offers a gruff morning without looking. You grunt back, because that's peak Norse friendliness. Back inside, the fire's blazing again, and a cauldron hangs over it, bubbling ominously. Breakfast is a thick porridge of oats, dried berries, and what might be squirrel meat. You scoop a ladle into a wooden bowl and take a bite. It's better than it smells, but the texture reminds you of regrets. As you eat, you inspect your belongings. Your shield leans against the wall, painted with the swirling red and black design your mother used. Your axe, smaller than the ones the men carry, is sharper and better balanced. That's your secret weapon. Speed, not brute force. A braided leather belt holds your sax knife, its hilt worn smooth from years of use. There's a wooden comb carved with knotwork patterns tucked into your pouch. because even warriors care about split ends. You glance around at the others. The younger kids are still asleep, curled like puppies. A few elders are whispering near the hearth. Your father is already outside, checking the boat ropes. You wonder how long until the spring raids begin. Rumors said the nearby monastery had silver goblets just sitting around, begging to be borrowed. Quirky tidbit of the day. Some Viking people believed in a creature called the mare, a supernatural being that sat on your chest while you slept, causing nightmares. You wonder if the thing you saw sitting on Sven's chest last night was a mare or just Ragna being judgmental. Eventually, someone rings the iron bell outside the door. It's time to gather for morning duties. You down the last of your squirrel porridge and wipe your mouth with your sleeve. No time for brushing teeth, unless you count chewing birch twigs and hoping your enemies stand upwind. The village comes alive quickly. Chickens scatter, kids squeal, and the blacksmith's forge roars to life. Your role today? Patrol duty along the outer fields, and maybe a sparring session. You grab your shield, strap your axe to your back, and sling a satchel of dried fish over your shoulder. Snacks, of course. Even in the 9th century, hangriness is a real threat. As you head out, the fog begins to lift, revealing the faint outline of the mountains beyond. The wind bites, but the sun promises to peek through. Somewhere, a raven caws, maybe an omen, maybe just annoyed by your outfit. You shrug and start walking. Life as a Viking Shieldmaiden isn't glamorous. It's cold, smelly, often unfair, and deeply exhausting. But it's also yours. You're strong, respected, feared in 3 neighboring villages, and deeply proud of the time you hit that one guy with a turnip and made him cry. You trudge through brittle grass rimmed with frost, heading toward the stream that cuts along the edge of your village. The sky is still that sleepy mix of gray and pink, as if the sun hasn't had its morning mead yet. Birds chirp half-heartedly from the trees, and your boots crunch with each step like breaking toast. The air smells of pine, wet earth, and the ever-present undertone of fermented herring. Scandinavian perfume, really. This is your favorite part of the day, and not because you love shivering half-naked next to a glacier-fed river. It's the ritual of it, the cleansing, the part where you dunk yourself in icy water and scream internally while pretending it's invigorating. Spoiler, it's not. The stream rushes by with that cheerful murmur of nature trying to kill you kindly. You kneel at its edge and begin the sacred act of washing up. Face first, then hands, then, if you're feeling bold, your armpits. You wince as the water bites into your skin. Soap. You've got the good stuff today. A lump of soft ash soap mixed with animal fat and lye, courtesy of your cousin, who nearly burned down the Longhouse making it. You rub it between your hands and try not to breathe through your nose. Historians still argue whether Viking hygiene was a point of pride or just a survival tactic. You suspect it was both. No one wants to raid a village while itchy, and contrary to popular belief, you bathe at least once a week, more if your goat sneezes on you. Some of your neighbors even wear imported combs from the Franks, flaunting their hygiene like it's a social status, which, honestly, it kind of is. You splash your face again, water dripping down your neck, and peer at your reflection in the rippling surface. You look tired, strong, but tired. Your braids are starting to fray. Your skin bears the soft evidence of age and sun and snow. There's a scar on your chin from that one fight with a Saxon who insulted your cooking. Fair. He had it coming. A flicker of movement catches your eye. A red fox watching from the trees. It blinks slowly, tail twitching, then vanishes into the underbrush like a silent judgment. You feel a weird pang of kinship. After all, you're both survivors, and you both look fabulous in winter. Back at the Longhouse, the morning crowd has dispersed. The warriors are already training. The children are off pretending to hunt squirrels with sticks, and the elders have gathered for their daily gossip, disguised as strategy planning. You enter briefly to warm your hands and find your friend Yrsa wrestling with a bundle of laundry twice her size. "Water's freezing today," you say, rubbing your arms. She snorts. "It's freezing every day. That's what it does. It freezes. It's ice." You grunt in agreement. Wit like hers is why she's single. You roll up your sleeves and help her wring out a tunic that once belonged to your uncle, now being repurposed for a scarecrow. "This one still smells like onions and fear," you mutter. She laughs, but it fades quickly. "Are you nervous about the raid next month?" You pause. The question lingers. Are you? Number yes. Maybe. It's not the fighting that unnerves you. It's the quiet after. The way the sea goes flat and the air hangs heavy with things unspoken. But you shrug and say, "Just another trip. Maybe this time we'll find that mythical land of constant sunshine and good bread." Historians still argue whether that was just Ireland. Yrsa muses. You both laugh and finish with the laundry. Then it's time to return to the stream. Not for yourself this time, but to fetch a bucket of water for your mother's herb brewing. You carry the wooden pail with both hands, trying not to spill any as it sloshes violently with each step. The weight reminds you of childhood, of learning balance, of tripping, and being scolded by your grandmother, with words that somehow involved both wolves and dishonor. The village dog, Skjold, trots beside you, sniffing everything like it's his divine calling. You talk to him out loud, narrating your every step, because there's no shame in discussing your existential crises with a creature who eats horse droppings for fun. "Maybe I'll braid my hair differently today," you tell him. Something fierce. With beads, he wags his tail in what you interpret as support. You arrive back just in time to see your mother sprinkling herbs into a clay pot over the fire. Sage, thyme, a hint of something she refuses to identify, but smells suspiciously like mushrooms. She doesn't look up. "Leave the water. Don't let it touch the elderberries." You nod and obey. She has that tone that suggests if you mess it up, she'll curse you with foot fungus. Later, before breakfast fully digests, it's time to prep your hair. Braiding is no small task. It's a cultural performance, a spiritual protection, and also the only way to keep lice from throwing a rave on your scalp. You sit cross-legged with a polished bronze mirror in your lap and begin parting your hair with a carved bone comb. 2 side braids twist back toward a central knot, anchored with iron beads shaped like tiny wolves' heads. You hum as you work, a song your aunt taught you, something about storm gods and sneaky ravens. The rhythm calms you. Outside, the world hums with life. Children shouting, hammers striking anvils, the occasional dramatic yell when someone steps on a rake. As you secure the final braid, you feel a quiet sense of power settle over you. The braids aren't just for looks. They're armor, identity, defiance. You are a shield maiden, braided and battle-ready. And maybe a little hungry again, if we're being honest. You head out the door, wind lifting your cloak like a theatrical exit. Time to pick up your axe. The training field lies just beyond the village, where the frost-bitten grass gives way to churned earth, scarred by years of boot prints and blunt weapon strikes. You walk toward it, with your axe slung across your back and your shield clutched loosely in one hand. The air is crisp enough to bite, but the sun peeks over the hills with a kind of sleepy approval, as if it, too, is curious how many people you'll accidentally whack today. Already, a half-dozen warriors are circling wooden dummies, grunting and swinging with the grace of angry oxen. Your cousin Leaf is trying to impress someone with a double axe twirl that ends with him nearly hitting his own foot. You raise an eyebrow. Classic Leaf. He nods in your direction, like you didn't just see him invent an entirely new way to sprain an ankle. You find a spot near a dummy that's missing half its straw guts and grip your axe with both hands. The wood of the handle is smooth from years of use. This particular axe was a gift from your uncle, passed down through at least 3 generations, though at one point it may have also been used to chop firewood and threaten a bear. Historians still argue whether bear standoffs were a rite of passage or just a bad idea that got mythologized. Your shield, painted in a swirl of red and black, shows signs of wear, but still holds strong. It's round, rimmed with iron, and heavy enough to knock the wind out of anyone foolish enough to underestimate it. And yes, it's decorated with runes meant to protect you in battle, though one looks suspiciously like a doodle of a goat. "Ready to warm up?" asks your friend Astrid, approaching with a training sword and a look that says she plans to bruise your ego, and maybe your ribs. You nod, positioning your feet in the packed earth. The two of you begin to circle, exchanging half-hearted feints until someone finally swings. Astrid lunges, and you deflect with your shield, pivot, and aim for her side. She dodges barely, laughing through clenched teeth. "You fight like a tired goose," she teases. "At least I don't honk when I run." You shoot back, dodging her counterswing. The fight ramps up quickly. Each clash of wood against shield echoes across the field. You move with precision, years of training honed into instinct. You duck, feint, strike, retreat. The others pause to watch as your match grows fiercer. Your breath clouds the air, your muscles burn, and somewhere mid-swing, you remember you were supposed to collect herbs this morning. Oops. Then it happens. A slip in the mud, a missed block, and you take a solid hit to the thigh. You stumble, gritting your teeth, and Astrid immediately lowers her weapon. "You all right?" You nod, though your pride might need stitches. She offers a hand, and you take it. "Good fight," she says. You say that like you didn't just make me limp. You limp back to the sidelines and accept a ladle of water from a nearby boy who thinks you're some kind of local legend. You're not, but you once scared off a thief with a fish, and that story gets bigger every time someone tells it. As the others resume their drills, you take a moment to observe. Everyone trains a little differently. Some focus on brute strength, others on speed. One guy, for reasons known only to him and the gods, fights with 2 ladles. You suspect he's just trying to impress a girl who once complimented his soup. Despite the chaos, there's rhythm to it all. The community bond, the shared sweat and bruises, the knowledge that when raids come, or worse, rival clans, you'll stand shoulder to shoulder, bloodied but unbowed. It's comforting, in a violent sort of way. Nearby, a group of young trainees is working with wooden swords, guided by a one-eyed veteran named Thorbjorn, who claims he once arm-wrestled a troll. You listen as he scolds them for bad footwork and worse posture. "If you fall flat, you die flat," he bellows, which is honestly a solid motto. Quirky tidbit of the day, Some Viking warriors were known to work themselves into a trance-like fury before battle. Berserkers. They'd howl, bite their shields, and supposedly become immune to pain. You tried it once in a controlled setting. Mostly, you got dizzy and scared the chickens. After some cool-down stretches, aka sitting in the mud and pretending it's restorative, you wipe your face with a linen scrap and begin cleaning your weapons. Maintenance is key. A dull axe is just a metal club with delusions of grandeur. You oil the blade with care, checking for nicks, whispering a few protective runes just in case your ancestors are watching. Your stomach rumbles. You pull a strip of dried fish from your pouch and chew slowly, staring out at the horizon. The sea glimmers in the distance, promising both opportunity and danger. Soon, you'll leave this training ground for real combat, real stakes. But for now, it's enough to sit here, sweaty, sore, and quietly victorious over a morning well spent. Just as you're about to rise, a child runs up breathless. "They're calling for you," she pants. "Market day. Your turn to trade, and your mother says if you forget the soap again, she'll tan your hide." You sigh, brush the mud from your knees, and rise. Market duty awaits. You march toward the village square with a small bundle of goods slung across your back. Hand-carved bone needles, a few smoked fish wrapped in birch bark, and a clutch of bright red berries that may or may not be mildly hallucinogenic. It's market day, and while pillaging can bring wealth, it's this weekly event that keeps the stew pot filled and the gossip flowing. The market isn't grand. It's more lumpy blankets on the ground than bustling stalls, but the energy is electric in a cozy, goat-infested kind of way. The square hums with chatter, laughter, and the occasional dramatic haggling over moldy cheese. Children dart between legs, dogs bark at each other like they're reenacting last year's feud, and someone is playing a lyre poorly enough to attract only squirrels. You set up your goods between an old man selling iron nails and a woman offering mysterious pickled things. She smiles sweetly, but her jars bubble suspiciously. You nod politely, wondering if that one jar just moved. People approach with curiosity. Your carved bone needles, etched with runes and shaped like feathers, catch the eye of a trader from a nearby fjord. He fingers one, squinting. "These real whalebone?" "Real as your wife's beard," you say sweetly. He laughs, and a deal is struck. 2 needles for a length of dyed wool and a small leather pouch of salt. Barter complete, you lean back and observe. The market is where everything happens. It's not just commerce, it's theater. You watch as a young girl offers eggs in exchange for a bronze brooch, and when rejected, she tosses in a handful of goose feathers and a very stern look. Deal sealed. Next, a group of warriors returns from fishing, reeking of brine and victory. They plop down their catch, gleaming silver cod, and immediately begin negotiating for ale. One man offers a fish the size of a toddler in exchange for a barrel of mead. The mead seller raises an eyebrow. Is it a talking fish? No, but it listens really well. They settle on a half barrel and a promise to not sing during dinner again. Historians still argue whether Viking markets were purely transactional or served deeper communal functions. Honestly, from where you're sitting, they're a mix of both. A place to trade, yes, but also to show off, flirt, and engage in very specific arguments about whether a chicken can count as currency. Answer: only if it doesn't bite. Someone bumps your shoulder. Your friend Eric, the local skald in training. He's trying out a new poetic saga about your village's founding, but he's stuck on a rhyme for fermented cabbage. You suggest savage. He beams. Genius. I'll tell it at the feast. Only if you make me sound taller, you reply. While Eric mumbles verse under his breath, you notice an older woman across the market, a respected midwife, holding a wooden bowl filled with carved tokens. Curious, you approach. Fortunes, she explains. One token, one glimpse. You hesitate, then drop a dried fish into her basket. She pulls a token, a tiny wooden circle etched with a spiral, and mutters something about cycles, return, the sea. You smile politely. That could mean death, wealth, or someone's goat getting pregnant. As with most fortune-telling, it's vague enough to be accurate no matter what happens. You return to your blanket just in time to catch a boy trying to swipe a berry from your basket. You flick his ear gently. Try that again, and I'll make you eat pickled herring for breakfast. He scampers off, and the pickled jar woman winks in approval. Quirky tidbit of the day. Vikings had laws about market behavior. No weapons drawn, no stealing, and, oddly, no loud singing during trades. Which makes you wonder if this was a real problem, or if someone's cousin really loved musical haggling. Trade done. You begin to pack up. Your fish are gone, your needles exchanged, and someone even bought the mysterious berries, claiming they helped talk to birds. You didn't ask follow-up questions. As you fold your blanket, the lyre player finally hits a correct chord, and the crowd collectively freezes like a miracle just occurred. A slow clap begins, but is quickly drowned out by a dogfight near the mead stand. Just another Tuesday. Before heading home, you make one final stop at the cloth merchant's stall. You've had your eye on a deep blue tunic embroidered with silver thread. Pricey, but elegant. The merchant eyes you. Can't offer coin, you say, but I'll trade a favor. What kind of favor? She asks, skeptical. I'll teach your son how to throw an axe, properly. She considers, and not at his sister. No promises. She laughs and nods. The tunic is yours. You walk back through the crowd, prize in hand, smiling. Market day has been good, profitable, colorful, and only mildly terrifying. As you near the Longhouse, someone calls out, "They're gathering at the temple." You pause. Temple visits aren't scheduled. They happen when omens appear, or someone has a bone to pick with the gods. You clutch your tunic tighter and change direction. Because when the gods call, even shield maidens listen. You follow the winding path through the village toward the sacred grove, where the temple stands, or rather, where the gods are most likely to eavesdrop. It's not a temple in the stone and steeple sense. It's a circle of ancient oaks, wrapped in creeping moss, and threaded with hanging offerings, bits of bone, feathers, twisted cords, and small carved idols that clack in the wind like whispered prayers. The crowd gathers slowly, reverently. No shouting here, just low murmurs and cautious glances. Even the children keep quiet, sensing the shift in mood, like animals before a storm. At the center of the grove stands the vulva, your clan's seeress. She's draped in dark wool, layers upon layers, and adorned with bones braided into her hair and smudges of ash across her cheeks. Her staff, carved from driftwood and capped with iron, thuds the ground in rhythmic cadence as she turns in place. Vulvas are respected, feared, and occasionally avoided when they start speaking in bird metaphors. This one, named Freitas, once predicted that a goat would win a wrestling match. And it did, though the farmer it pinned still insists he tripped. As you take your place near the front, you notice fresh offerings at the base of the central tree. Honey mead in a horn, a small wooden horse, and a pouch of herbs you recognize from your mother's garden. Good for fevers or visions, depending on the dose. Freydis lifts her staff. A raven flew across the moon last night, she begins, voice rasping like dry leaves. It dropped a feather in my fire, and the flames turned green. You nod solemnly, though you're pretty sure green fire means someone tossed in old onion peels. The gods are restless. They call for strength, for sacrifice, for readiness. Whispers ripple through the crowd. Readiness means raids, means battle, or worse, means winter omens. You glance at the old men seated near the back, their eyes narrowed. The kind of narrowed that says they've seen things, and those things likely involved frostbite. The vulva continues, muttering in Old Norse too, layered for literal translation. She casts bones onto a cloth, goat knuckles and fish vertebrae, which land in a pattern that makes her frown deeply. A journey, she declares, a threat from the sea, and a choice for a woman with red thread in her braid. You blink. You have red thread in your braid. Decorative, sure, but now it's ominous. Everyone slowly turns to look at you. You force a smile, the polite kind that says, yes, I'm honored, but also, no thank you. Freydis points her staff your way. Prepare. The gods will ask something of you. Like taxes, you mutter, but no one laughs. Too soon, apparently. After the ritual, villagers approach the offering tree, tying bits of cloth or whispering into the bark as though it might answer. You step forward too, out of tradition, if not belief. You press your palm against the coarse trunk and murmur something vague. Let me be strong. Let Ragna stop stealing my boots. Let Eric's lyre stay in tune just once. Quirky tidbit of the day. Some Viking rituals involved making loud noises, shouting, horn blasts, or drum beating to scare off spirits or summon gods. Today's version is subtler, though one toddler does start shrieking mid-prayer. Everyone pretends not to notice, except the gods, who are probably delighted. After the ceremony, you trail behind the others, mind spinning. You never minded the gods much. They seemed busy, dramatic, and not particularly interested in your day-to-day life. But now you're a walking prophecy, or at least a footnote in one. You try to shake it off as superstition, but that red thread in your braid itches like it knows something. Back in the village, your mother waits with a look that says she knows everything. Freydis named you, she says, not asking. Probably a different red thread, you offer. She meant you. You sigh, setting down your bundle from the market. So what do I do? She shrugs. Train harder. Watch for signs. Don't marry a fisherman. Helpful, you reply. Very oracle of you. She smiles and presses a small pouch into your hand. Dried herbs wrapped in linen. For dreams, or clarity, or nightmares. Sometimes all three. You tuck the pouch into your belt and change out of your market tunic. Something simpler now. Dark wool, leather boots, a cloak that won't catch on branches if you have to run for your life or dignity. That evening, the sky turns violet and gold, and you find yourself back at the temple alone. Just you, the trees, the silence, and a squirrel who seems to be judging your posture. You sit cross-legged near the altar, rubbing the thread in your braid between your fingers. What does it mean to be chosen? You're a fighter, yes, a traitor, a sister, a soap forgetter. But divine messengers? That's a bit above your pay grade. Still, you whisper into the wind. If you're going to ask something of me, give me time to eat first. Somewhere in the distance, a raven caws. Figures. Morning greets you with an odd serenity. the kind that makes you suspicious. The sky is low and soft, like someone draped a wool blanket over the village. Dew slicks every surface, and even Ragna the goat seems contemplative, chewing her cud with unsettling dignity. That can only mean one thing. It's a day for preparing the Longship. Your clan's vessel is docked along the fjord, its curved prow jutting proudly from the mist, like a beast ready to lunge. She's called Stormweaver, painted with swirling designs and adorned with shields strapped along the railing like teeth. Her keel has kissed more foreign shores than you've had hot meals this week, and today she needs scrubbing, sealing, and at least 4 prayers to avoid sinking mid-raid. You walk to the shipyard with a sack slung over your shoulder, containing pitch, rags, and a half-eaten meat pie, because practical warriors plan snacks. The docks are already buzzing. Some warriors are tightening ropes, others are refastening oarlocks with the patience of saints and the vocabulary of angry fishmongers. Your cousin Life, he of axe mishaps and endless confidence, greets you by handing you a scraping blade. "Time to remove the barnacles," he says, gesturing to the ship's hull. You blink. "I thought that was for the thralls." "They're busy praying the boat won't fall apart. You're faster and angrier." Fair point. You kneel at the ship's edge and start scraping. Barnacles are like historical metaphors, annoying, clingy, and prone to chipping away your patience. As you work, flakes of old pitch and sea grime fly up, some landing directly in your mouth. Delightful. Scraping is monotonous, but weirdly meditative. It gives you time to think about Freydis and her cryptic prophecy, about red thread and fate, about how you still don't know if you're supposed to embrace this destiny or aggressively ignore it until it goes away. Historians still argue whether Shieldmaidens were real battlefront warriors or symbolic figures elevated in saga for flair. You wonder, as you scrape another stubborn barnacle, if it matters. You are here. You exist. You scrub this boat. Eventually, someone yells, "Seals loose," and half the crew rushes to the front of the ship, where a massive water barrel is tilting dangerously. You stay put. You've played this game before. 5 warriors and 1 large seal barrel equals 20 minutes of chaos, and someone soaked to the knees. As you expected, a moment later there's a splash, a curse, and Leaf shouting something about, "Not the pants again." You smile and return to your work. Once the hull is cleared, you help apply fresh pitch, the black tar-like substance that seals the wood. It's hot, sticky, and smells like pine smoked over a regret fire. You use a brush fashioned from horsehair, spreading the pitch with long, even strokes. Your arms ache by the 3rd panel, but you push on. Next comes shield lashing. The clan's shields, painted in bright, intimidating colors, are affixed to the sides of the ship, creating a visual wall of "do not engage." Yours, of course, is the one with the slightly lopsided wolf rune and the faint stain from when someone dropped stew on it last autumn. As you tighten the lashings, a figure approaches. The shipwright, Hakon, known for his toothless grin and the ability to fix anything with 3 nails and an insult. He grunts at your knots. Decent work, could hold through a squall, maybe even a drunken brawl. You nod, honored. That's high praise in Hakon speak, quirky tidbit of the day. Some Viking ships had animal heads carved onto the prow to scare off sea monsters or evil spirits. Your ship had one too, a snarling dragon head with a chipped fang, removed before landing at peaceful ports so as not to offend local gods. Today, The head is being polished nearby by a boy who insists he saw it blink once. You choose not to question it. By midday, the crew takes a break. You gather around a small fire with others, sharing dried meat, bread crusts, and pickled turnips that could probably survive an apocalypse. Eric, ever the bard, starts composing a new verse about your clan's upcoming voyage and insists on rhyming fjord with snord. You recommend sword. He looks betrayed. The conversation turns to maps. A weathered parchment is unrolled, revealing jagged coastlines and notes in runic shorthand, marking possible targets, monasteries, and safe harbors. You lean over, tracing a line toward a new destination. What's this one? A Frankish port, someone says. Rich, poorly defended, tasty cheeses. You nod. Tempting. Then, someone else mentions a rumor. A coastal town building high stone walls, supposedly using magic to keep raiders at bay. You scoff. Magic is rarely the issue. Usually, it's boiling oil or well-aimed rocks. As the sun dips, work resumes. You help hoist sailcloths, thick sun-bleached fabric with seams reinforced by hours of needlework. Your arms throb, but your spirit steadies. This is what you were born for. The sea, the storm, the promise of adventure balanced precariously between glory and splinters. By twilight, Stormweaver gleams, hull slick with pitch, shields in place, sail folded neatly. She's ready, or as ready as she ever is. You run your fingers along the rail and whisper the old blessing under your breath. Hold strong. Bring us back. You leave the docks with tar-streaked hands and a new sense of calm. The ship is ready. Your clan is ready. And whether the gods demand something grand or something subtle, you'll meet it, preferably after a nap and a bath. You wake to seagulls screaming overhead and the scent of salt already clinging to the breeze. The time has come. Today, you set sail. The Longship waits at the dock, gently bobbing against its moorings like a beast, pacing in place. Every creak of its timbers sounds like anticipation, like hunger. You feel it too, tight in your chest, coiled like rope in a storm. There's a ritual before departure, as always. The clan gathers near the shore, each warrior laying a hand on the ship's hull, whispering quiet blessings or threats, depending on personal theology. Your hand finds a smooth patch near the dragon prow. It's warm from the morning sun. You close your eyes and murmur, "Keep us afloat. Keep Leaf from singing." Someone chuckles behind you. It's Astrid, strapping on her axe harness. "Last chance to back out," she teases. You smirk. "And miss the chance to get seasick for 3 days straight? Never." Your mother hands you a pouch, dried fruit, herbs, and a small iron pendant shaped like a raven. "For luck," she says. You kiss her cheek and board the ship. Stormweaver groans under the shifting weight of her crew. Oars slide into place, each one carved with a name or symbol. Yours bears a single rune, protection. You grip it like an extension of yourself, muscle memory already taking over. With a shouted command, the ship launches. Oars dip in unison, and the fjord begins to slip away. Behind you, the village grows smaller. Smoke trailing from longhouses, children waving, goats already breaking things in your absence. You sit near the center, shield slung on your back, trying not to think about the motion of the waves. Spoiler, the waves are thinking about you. The sea starts gently enough, lulling you with its rhythmic slap against the hull. The crew rows in silence at first, lost in their own thoughts, or just saving energy. Then Leaf starts humming. It's tuneless, it's persistent, it's the musical equivalent of a splinter. Astrid elbows him. Stop that or I'll feed you to the whales. They don't eat people, he protests. They'll make an exception. Hours pass in a blur of muscle ache and endless blue. You snack on dried cod. It tastes like salt and sadness. Someone breaks out a small drum, tapping a steady beat to keep the rowing even. Eric tries to sing a verse, gets the words wrong, and pretends it was intentional. As the day stretches on, your stomach turns. The sea, so beautiful from shore, is now a rolling, unpredictable enemy. You grip the edge of the ship and breathe through your nose, willing yourself not to add to the bilge water. Historians still argue whether Vikings had methods for handling seasickness beyond tough it out. If they did, no one told you. You chew a bit of ginger root from your pouch. Thanks, Mom. And hope it works before someone mistakes your green face for a curse. By late afternoon, the rhythm settles. The crew finds its groove. The wind fills the sail, and the oars are lifted, giving your arms a blessed rest. You stretch, soar in places you didn't know had muscles. The sea opens wider. A seabird circles overhead, crying out like it has gossip to share. You shade your eyes and spot land far in the distance, just a shadow, but enough to stir excitement. Quirky tidbit of the day. Some Viking sailors believed that seeing a whale on the voyage was a sign of both doom and good luck, depending on the whale's behavior. So basically, like most omens, it was conveniently vague. As twilight descends, the ship anchors in a sheltered bay. It's too dark to continue safely, and no one wants to risk beaching blind. A fire is lit on the shore, a small one, careful not to draw attention, and rations are shared. You sit near the flames, passing around hard bread and dried meat, while Leif dramatically retells the day's journey, as if he rowed the entire time with one arm while fighting off sea serpents. You lean back against your rolled cloak and watch the stars emerge. They're impossibly bright out here, with no torchlight to compete. You trace constellations with your eyes, the axe, the serpent, the wandering goat. Eric swears that one star winks every time he flirts with danger. You suggest it's blinking in disapproval. A moment of quiet falls over the group. The only sounds are crackling fire and lapping waves. You feel it in your bones, that blend of exhaustion and awe, of being so small beneath the sky and yet essential to this voyage. Someone starts humming. Not Leif, thankfully, and it spreads like a soft tide through the group. You don't know the words, but the tune is old, carried across generations in boats just like this one. As you close your eyes, the firelight flickering on your lids, you wonder what tomorrow holds. Gold, glory, soggy boots. Probably all three. You wake stiff and salt-crusted. The sea air has a way of clinging to you overnight, creeping into your cloak, your hair, your bones. The ship rocks gently nearby, still tethered to a line of wooden stakes driven into the shoreline last night. The fire is down to embers, and most of the crew are already stirring, grumbling into dried meat and stretching like poorly oiled puppets. You take a moment to rinse your face with seawater, immediately regretting it as the salt stings your eyes. Invigorating, you mutter, blinking rapidly. Breakfast is a communal shrug, more hard bread, a few bits of dried apple, and whatever Astrid foraged this morning. Possibly berries, possibly rocks. You're not entirely sure. Either way, you chew dutifully and pretend it's delicious. Then comes the call to board. The tide is right, the wind's favorable, and the captain, your Uncle Ivar, a man who has never smiled on purpose, is already shouting instructions from midship. You stow your gear, find your place, and take up your oar. The journey resumes. The sea is more assertive today. Waves slap the hull like it owes them money. The sail catches wind quickly, and you're off, slicing through the water with speed and purpose. You lean into the movement, adjusting your balance with each sway, becoming part of the ship's rhythm. As hours pass, the monotony sets in again. There's only so much excitement to be found in rowing, unless you enjoy watching seagulls argue about fish guts. You fall into a trance. Oar in, pull, breathe, shift, repeat. The world narrows to that loop, and before long, your mind begins to wander. Eric plops down beside you, panting. You ever think about how weird it is that we trust a plank of wood to carry us across the entire world? You glance at him. You mean this highly engineered, pitch-sealed marvel of shipbuilding? I mean, it creaks like a haunted barn. You concede the point. Somewhere past midday, land appears. Not your destination, but a spit of rock and scrub rising from the waves. Ivar decides to circle it, perhaps looking for a good anchorage or simply to get a better read on the currents. As you loop around the rocky shore, someone spots a seal sunning itself on a ledge. Leif raises a spear. "Don't you dare," you say. "It's for dinner. It's for karma." He lowers the spear, grumbling. Quirky tidbit of the day. Viking sailors sometimes brought ravens on voyages. They'd release one mid-sea and watch where it flew. Toward land, toward fate, or in circles if the bird was as confused as the rest of you. You've got no raven. Just a suspicious seagull who's been following the boat since yesterday and keeps eyeing your hair like it's nesting material. As the afternoon stretches, the wind grows capricious. The sail flutters, catches, then jerks. The sky darkens, not ominously, just stubbornly. A thick bank of clouds rolls in from the west, smudging the sun and lowering visibility. The crew moves faster, adjusting ropes, scanning the horizon. You grip your axe a little tighter. Not from fear, just respect. The sea deserves that. Ivar orders a change in direction, tacking against the wind. The shift throws everyone slightly off balance. You plant your boots and ride the motion, knees bent, arms steady. The ship groans, but obeys. It always does, for now. As evening threatens, the lookout shouts, "Smoke!" Everyone tenses. Smoke means land, but not necessarily friendly land. Ivar climbs the prow for a better look. After a tense moment, he calls out, "Small village." Looks quiet. "Or very good at hiding," Eric mutters beside you. "Either way," Astrid adds, "we're landing." And so the course is set. The crew prepares, checking weapons, adjusting armor, tying down personal packs. You do the same, strapping your axe tighter, adjusting your shield, slipping your mother's raven charm beneath your tunic. As the shore nears, details sharpen. It's a small coastal settlement, wooden huts, smoke from a central hearth, no visible guards, no walls. Either they're confident or clueless. You land silently, pulling the Longship into the shallows. Boots splash into surf. Weapons are drawn. Hearts beat faster. Then, just as your group steps ashore, something surreal happens. A child waves at you. Just stands there, barefoot in the sand, grinning like you're guests at a feast. You all freeze. Leif leans over. "You sure we're the raiders?" Before anyone can answer, an elder approaches from the nearest hut, hands raised. "We bring tribute," he says, thick accented but clear. Behind him, others appear, holding fish, furs, baskets of dried fruit. They were expecting you. Historians still argue whether early Viking raids eventually transitioned into more Business-like transactions, settlements choosing to pay off raiders in exchange for not being flattened. Seems you've stumbled into one of those arrangements. Ivar steps forward, accepts a fur bundle, and nods. No battle, no blood. Just polite robbery with snacks. You lower your axe, unsure whether to feel relieved or slightly cheated. As night falls, you dine with the villagers. The food is simple but warm, the people cautious but kind. You sit near the fire, chewing fish you didn't have to catch, watching the flames dance across unfamiliar faces. Eric leans over. Well, that was anticlimactic. You smile. I'll take boring over bloody. Same. But tomorrow, we try the next village, yeah? You nod, feeling the wind shift again. Tomorrow is always waiting. The village wakes slowly, as if unsure whether its policy of preemptive bribery really paid off. Your crew, on the other hand, wakes with renewed purpose. The ship is restocked, your boots are still damp, and your next target lies just beyond the cape. Another settlement rumored to be less cooperative and more inventory-rich. Ivar calls for an early departure. The villagers see you off with the kind of polite dread usually reserved for in-laws and tax collectors. You nod farewell to the elder, who bows slightly and mutters a prayer, possibly to Odin, or possibly to the god of really hoping you never come back. The sea is calm. Too calm. That's always a little suspicious. You grip your oar and row, muscles already aching, mind already drifting to what the next landfall might bring. By midday, a new coastline appears, larger than the last, with fields stretching inland and a cluster of buildings nestled near a river mouth. You can see sails moored on the other side and plumes of smoke rising from cooking fires. The crew quiets. This one isn't going to hand over fruit baskets and blankets. Ivar gives the nod. No speeches, just readiness. The ship glides into a hidden cove nearby. You disembark silently, weapons in hand, shields slung tight. Your boots crunch softly on wet sand as the crew fans out, flanking the path toward the village. You move like a whisper with muscle, a line of ghosts with sharp steel. You take the lead on the right. Astrid is beside you, her axe already loose in its sling. Leif, to your left, is breathing like he's preparing for battle or a really aggressive dance-off. You crest a small hill and see the village clearly now. It's bigger than expected. At least 24 huts, a wooden palisade, and a watchtower that, to your relief, appears abandoned. They weren't expecting you. Ivar raises a hand. Charge. You surge forward, heart pounding, feet eating up the distance between forest and fence. At the last second, Leif yells something heroic and mostly incoherent, possibly involving goats. You reach the palisade and scale it with practiced ease, vaulting over like it's just another training wall. Others follow, shields up, axes ready. The village erupts in chaos. People scatter. A few men grab weapons, others flee. A dog starts barking like it just discovered religion. You focus. Your target is the storehouse, likely to hold valuables. You duck past a startled farmer who drops a bucket and screams something unrepeatable, then kick open the storehouse door. Inside, sacks of grain, barrels of ale, a few chests. You motion to Astrid. Take the left. I've got this side. You rummage quickly, eyes scanning for silver, furs, anything compact and valuable. You find a pouch, clinking with coins, and tuck it into your belt. Outside, you hear clashing, shouting, the unmistakable sound of someone tripping over a chicken. You step back into the fray. A villager swings a pitchfork at you. You dodge, spin, and knock him back with your shield. No killing if you can avoid it. Not today. This is a raid, not a massacre. You want goods, not ghosts. Historians still argue whether Vikings preferred quick raids or full-on sieges. You suspect the answer is whatever gets the loot fastest. Siege implies time and patience. Your crew has neither. After 10 minutes of chaos, it's over. The villagers surrender or scatter. The crew regroups, dragging sacks and crates toward the path. Eric limps slightly but grins. "Got hit with a spoon," he says proudly. "Was it silver?" "Wooden." You shake your head. The spoils are modest but decent. Silver cups, some fine textiles, and a very confused chicken now claimed by Leif as a combat pet. You don't ask. The retreat is swift. The Longship waits like a faithful dog, bobbing at its mooring. You load the loot, double-checking for weight distribution. You once saw a ship tip because someone stacked too much ale on the port side. Tragic, really. As you shove off, the wind picks up. You sit by the prow, catching your breath, watching the coastline retreat. A plume of smoke rises from the village. Not from fire, just a cooking hearth. Life goes on, even after you've stormed through it. Quirky tidbit of the day. Some Vikings brought skalds along to document raids in verse, turning theft into art. Eric's already composing. "We came. We saw. We stole a goat," he mutters, scribbling on bark. "Work on your meter," you suggest. The sea welcomes you back with gentle waves. You lean against your pack, the stolen pouch still snug at your hip. You think about Freitas, about fate, about whether this raid satisfied whatever the gods had in mind when they tagged you with red thread and cryptic warnings. Maybe it wasn't about bloodshed or silver. Maybe it was about stepping forward, about claiming space, about proving, again, that you are not just a warrior. You are a force. The sky deepens to orange. The oars dip. The Longship glides. You let your eyes close, just for a moment. The sea sings. By the time the Longship settles into its next camp, along a quiet stretch of beach, the crew is equal parts triumphant and exhausted. The spoils from the raid, silver, cloth, a truly unhinged goat, are packed safely beneath a tarp near the stern. You drop onto the sand, back aching, eyes gritty, and muscles somewhere between proud and on strike. The fire is already lit, flames crackling against the breeze. Someone has unpacked the ale. Someone else is butchering a freshly caught fish with the enthusiasm of a poet who's just learned swearing. There's a kind of buzz in the air that only comes after victory, a loose, giddy, too tired to be tense atmosphere. You love it. Dinner is roasted fish with a side of wild onions and a spoonful of something pickled that you choose not to identify. You sit cross-legged near the fire, watching embers float upward like miniature omens. Eric hands you a chunk of fish and asks, "So, was that your smoothest raid yet?" You shrug. No fires, no injuries, no emotional speeches from life. So yeah, it's a record. "Hey," Leif pipes up, already half a flagon deep. "That speech I gave at Bjorn's wedding was moving." "It moved people. Out of the Longhouse," you reply. As the fire burns lower, the boasting begins. It always does. A traditional Viking feast is never complete without a round of wildly exaggerated storytelling. First up, a bearded man named Rurik, who claims he once caught a thief using only his foot and a spoon. The tale lasts 7 minutes and somehow involves a horse, a runaway cart, and what might have been a sea spirit disguised as a cabbage. Next, Astrid shares how she disarmed 2 armed villagers using only her cloak and a jar of honey. You raise an eyebrow. That actually sounds plausible. She smirks. Because it happened. I'll show you the jar. Even Eric, who usually sticks to verse, tries to join in with a tale of romantic conquest involving a priest's daughter, a loaf of bread, and mistaken identity. Halfway through, he forgets the ending and claims the story was symbolic. You hold out until late. Then, when the circle turns to you, you raise your cup and say, I once made an entire monastery surrender, using just a sheep and a very aggressive lullaby. The group howls with laughter. Leaf claps you on the back. You're making that up. You think I could invent that sheep? Historians still argue whether Vikings truly valued boastfulness, or whether it was part of their oral tradition's performative nature. You suspect it's both. Storytelling here isn't just for ego. It's how memories survive, how deeds become legend. If no one boasts about it, did it even happen? As the night deepens and stars sprinkle across the sky like ash, flung by the gods, someone brings out a lute. The musician plucks a gentle tune, slower than usual, more lullaby than battle anthem. Voices soften, the story's quiet, and for a moment, the only sound is the crackling of fire and the low hum of the sea beyond. You lie back in the sand, cloak tucked under your head, and watch the stars blink lazily above. They remind you of the rune tokens Freydis cast. Mysterious, numerous, almost certainly judging you. You haven't thought much about the prophecy since the raid. You expected fire and fate, and maybe a bolt of divine lightning. But instead, you've had a goat. Maybe that's how it works. A chicken wanders too close to the fire and squawks indignantly when Leaf tries to toast a bit of bread on its back. You sigh and sit up. Then, from across the fire, a soft clink of metal. Eric is balancing one of the silver cups on his forehead. For the gods, he declares, and for whoever manages to drink without spilling it down their tunic. Astrid grabs the cup, downs a gulp, and immediately spills it. Challenge failed, she announces proudly. Leaf insists he can do better. He cannot. You laugh, heart lighter than it has been since before the voyage began. Quirky tidbit of the day. Some Viking feasts included formal contests, strength, wit, even poetry duels. One recorded skald insulted an opponent by comparing his verse to a goat falling off a roof. Brutal. Eventually, one by one, your crewmates drift into sleep. Some in bedrolls, others curled near the embers, one snoring loudly with their head on a fish barrel. You stay up just a little longer, watching the fire die. It feels like a breath before the next storm, a pause between verses. You lie back, pulling your cloak over your shoulders, and close your eyes. Tomorrow will bring more choices, but tonight, you rest in the warmth of fire, the glow of stories, and the knowledge that, at least for now, you're exactly where you belong. The sun rises behind a low fog, turning the sea into a mirror of soft silver. You wake stiff and damp, your cloak clingy from morning dew, and the unfortunate decision to sleep too close to the water barrel. You roll over, grimace, and try to unknot your back while a seagull laughs at your pain. Nature is rude. Camp stirs slowly. The crew is quiet this morning. Too many sore arms, bruised ribs, and questionable choices involving fermented drinks. Leaf is still snoring into a pile of nets, and someone has drawn what appears to be a very unflattering rune on his forehead, using charcoal. You head to the fire pit where Astrid is warming up some sort of stew. What's in it? You ask. Yesterday's regrets, and maybe fish. You sip it cautiously. It's warm, it's edible, and you've definitely had worse. But today, the hangovers aren't the main problem. Today is about something far more Viking: wounds and healing. One of the younger warriors, Brynja, slipped during the raid and gashed her leg. It's not fatal, but it's nasty. And now she's hobbling around like an angry duck. You volunteer to escort her to the healer's tent, a loosely defined tent made of spare sails, driftwood, and a lingering sense of dread. Inside waits Thora, the ship's unofficial medic, official herb hoarder, and the only person who can tell fever dreams from prophetic visions. "Sit," she says to Brynja, who groans and collapses onto a fur mat. Thora eyes the wound, sniffs it like she's testing cheese, and then reaches for a jar filled with a suspicious green paste. "What is that?" you ask. "Yarrow, moss, honey, and goat spit," she replies without looking up. "You mean goat milk?" "No." Brynja pales. Thora slathers the concoction onto the wound. Brynja hisses. You pretend not to hear. "Pain is the first step toward wisdom," Thora mutters. "Second is not getting stabbed," you offer. She grunts approvingly. Quirky tidbit of the day. Viking medicine was a strange mix of herbal remedies and superstition. They believed in wound charms, spoken poems meant to aid healing, and sometimes used onions to test the depth of a wound. If they could smell it through the hole, it was bad. Very scientific. Once Brynja is bandaged and breathing again, you help her limp outside. She leans heavily on you, muttering curses at rocks, gravity, and her own clumsiness. You smile softly. You've been there. Every warrior has. The worst wounds aren't the deepest cuts, but the ones that humble you. You sit her near the fire, prop up her leg, and hand her a bowl of regret stew. She sips it like it owes her money. Nearby, Thora begins preparing more salves, mixing herbs with a mortar that's older than most of your crew. You offer to help, and she accepts with a nod, handing you a pouch of dried roots. "Grind these, fine as flour." You oblige, pounding the roots into powder, watching as she adds them to a bubbling pot. The scent is sharp, almost minty, with an undertone of something earthy and vaguely accusatory. "Will this one also involve goat spit?" Only if you ask nicely. As you work, she starts talking, not just about herbs, but about healing itself. "The body is like a longship," she says. "If one plank rots, the rest feels it. Fix it early and you float. Ignore it and you sink." You nod, understanding. You've ignored too many things before. Bruises, grief, omens wrapped in red thread. She gives you a look. You've been marked. By goats mostly. By fate. You fall silent. So does she. The pot bubbles louder than before. Later that afternoon, the healing tent becomes a revolving door of minor injuries. Splinters, burns, a bite that might be from a squirrel. Leaf arrives with a cut on his hand and a suspiciously theatrical limp. Thora eyes him. "Did you get this fighting?" "No, I, tripped." "On?" A strong breeze. She fixes him with a stare so intense, it could strip paint. Then she shoves a jar into his hands and sends him out. You help apply poultices, wrap gauze, and listen to stories of how this cut definitely wasn't my fault. It's tiring, but oddly satisfying, like you're holding things together, not just bodies, but spirits. Historians still argue whether Viking women were trained healers or picked it up as needed. Based on Thora's grumbling and Brynja's whimpering, it seems like most of the knowledge came from necessity and stubbornness. As the sun begins to dip, cast in everything in amber, you stretch your aching arms and step outside. The beach glows. The Longship rests nearby like a giant sleeping hound. Waves lap gently at the shore. Astrid joins you, holding a flask. You survived Thora's workshop, she says. I think I might be a salve now. She hands you the flask. You sip. It burns. Definitely not goat spit. Probably pine and regret. As night falls, you sit by the fire again, this time with the quiet pride of someone who's done good, even if no one sang about it. There's honor in healing too, even if it smells like moss and goat. You wake to the clang of a horn and the unmistakable sound of someone shouting about socks. Your first thought, surely not. Your second, it's probably Leaf. You stumble from your bedroll, rubbing the sleep from your eyes as the camp stirs with the groggy chaos of 100 people trying to locate their boots, weapons, and sense of purpose. The shouting continues, louder now, and you see a small crowd gathering near the fire pit. At the center stands a furious woman, clutching a very sad-looking pair of woolen socks. Opposite her, Leaf, arms crossed, expression defiant. I didn't take them, he insists. They were drying on a rock, she snaps. Now they're full of fish guts. I thought they were rags. You sigh. It's going to be one of those mornings. Enter the thing, not a creature, but a council, a trial, a gathering of local wisdom and occasionally wild speculation to settle disputes among the crew or the community. And today, it's convening over socks. The crew forms a loose circle. In the center sits Ivar, your uncle, now acting as judge. He looks about as thrilled as someone asked to referee a pie fight. Bring forth the evidence, he says flatly. The socks are presented. They're damp, stained, and smell like they lost a bet. Ivar raises an eyebrow. Leaf, did you put fish guts in these? I put fish guts on the rock. I didn't know there were socks underneath. Astrid snorts. Did you not notice the color? Or the sock shape? They looked like seaweed. Historians still argue whether Viking trials were more legal or theatrical. Based on today's performance, it's 70% drama, 30% fabric analysis. The sock owner, Inga, glares. I want compensation. Those were my only warm pair. Ivar sighs. What do you propose? 2 new pairs, and Leaf carries my water skins for the next week. Leaf protests. You raise your hand. How about 1 new pair and he cooks dinner twice? Ivar nods. Agreed. Inga grumbles but nods. Leif shrugs. Fine, but I'm not seasoning anything. You never do, someone mutters. Case closed. The crowd disperses, amused and mildly disappointed there wasn't a duel. The thing was traditionally more than sock trials. It was where laws were recited from memory, where disputes were aired, and where the community reaffirmed its rules. You've seen men judged for theft, women defend their property rights, and even a goat once exonerated of ruining a cart, though it was guilty emotionally. After the socks, the council moves on to more serious matters, like allocating rations, deciding tomorrow's route, and reviewing ship repairs. You take a seat in the circle, watching as voices rise and fall like the tide. You're not a formal speaker today, but that doesn't mean you're not part of the process. Viking democracy, for lack of a better term, runs on loud voices and stubborn reason. Everyone has a say, unless they're Leaf, and the topic is laundry. At one point, Eric suggests renaming the Longship to Goatbane after its recent battle with Ragna. No one supports it, but a few people laugh, which means Eric counts it as a win. Quirky tidbit of the day. Viking law speakers memorized the entire legal code and recited it at everything. The logic? If you couldn't remember it, maybe it wasn't important enough to be a law. After the council, The rest of the day unfolds with the languid pace of decision-making hangover. You help move supplies from ship to shore, repair a few splintered shields, and try to avoid being roped into Leaf's stew experiment, which now includes dried mushrooms of suspicious origin. You find a moment of quiet near the edge of camp, overlooking the shore. The sea glitters, indifferent. The air is cool and crisp, the kind that makes your breath visible and your thoughts sharp. Astrid joins you. You handled the sock trial well. I just didn't want blood on laundry day. She chuckles. There's a lesson in that somewhere. Yeah, label your rocks. As evening settles, the fire is rekindled and dinner begins. A chaotic blend of fish, root vegetables, and whatever Leaf deemed edible adjacent. You chew carefully. Tonight, there's no boasting, no song, just quiet conversation, a few tired jokes, and the steady lull of waves. After a day of shouting and sock justice, it feels earned. You lie back near the embers, cloak wrapped tight, and think about order. How even in a world of axes and raids, you still need rules, still need a voice to speak, a circle to judge, a way to make things right, even if it's just about socks. And maybe that's the point. Even shield maidens need a system. Snow. It starts lightly, soft flakes drifting down like ash from a forgotten hearth. But by the time you notice it, your cloak is already dusted. The Longship's sail is slick with moisture, and the air has turned from sharp to slicing. Winter, it seems, has arrived without RSVP. The camp scrambles to react. Fires are stoked higher, tents are reinforced with extra hides, and someone yells about sealing the mead barrels before they freeze into sadness. You grab your cloak tighter and start gathering kindling from the nearby thicket, each branch crunching under your boots. By midday, visibility has dropped. The world narrows to a few feet in every direction, muffled by snow and wind. Ragna the goat has vanished somewhere into the white, possibly seeking shelter or starting a cult of weather-resistant livestock. The Longship is dragged further ashore, now half buried in snow, like some sleeping beast waiting for spring. You help lash a tarp over its deck, hands going numb despite your gloves. The rope slips once, and you bark a curse that gets swallowed by the wind. Later, huddled inside your Longhouse shelter, a makeshift lodge built with driftwood, sealskin, and ambition, you and your crew do what all Vikings do when winter locks the world in ice. You wait, and while you wait, you entertain. The games begin. First, there's Natliker, a brutal form of Viking ball game that's part rugby, part brawl, and part whoever falls in the fire loses. You referee, wisely. Eric tries to play and ends up tackled by a child half his size. He claims it was a trick of the snow. Then come the dice games, wooden cubes carved with runes, tossed into a shallow bowl. You play for dried berries and pride. Astrid wins too often. You accuse her of favor from the gods. She says, "That's not cheating. That's good public relations." Quirky tidbit of the day. The Vikings believed in nithing poles, cursed stakes carved with insults or dark runes, often used to shame enemies. Eric tries to make one out of snow and names it Leaf's Cooking. The best part of snowed-in days is storytelling. Everyone takes turns, some real, some wildly not. You tell a tale of how a woman once scared off raiders, using only a saggy sheep and a flute. Someone else recounts a ghost that haunted a fjord by imitating goat noises at night. You're still not convinced that wasn't just Ragna. Thora even shares a grim saga about a man who tried to survive winter by eating nothing but eels. It ends badly for the man. and the eels. Historians still argue whether Viking winters were brutally isolating or surprisingly communal. Based on your current situation, 13 people sharing stew, space, and stories, you'd lean toward the latter. Sure, it's cramped. But the laughter helps, and the body heat is basically emotional currency. As night deepens, the wind howls louder, now whipping around your lodge with the fury of forgotten gods. You toss more wood on the fire and sit closer to Astrid, who's carving something into a bit of bone. A brooch, maybe, or a really aggressive fish. You glance around. Eric is asleep, using a sack of onions as a pillow. Leif is trying to teach the goat to jump over a shield. The goat is, at best, skeptical. You feel a strange peace. Here, in the storm, there's no need to be fierce or brave or chosen. Just warm, just present, just human. You pull the red thread from your braid and inspect it. Still whole, still vibrant. Maybe it was never about a grand prophecy. Maybe it's just a reminder to tie yourself together when the wind threatens to pull you apart. Later, you step outside briefly, just to breathe. The snow has slowed. The moon hangs low and bloated, casting a silver glow over the white-drenched world. The trees stand like frozen sentinels. The air stings your nose but smells clean, pure, alive. You stand there a long time, letting the cold bite your cheeks, your lungs, your thoughts. Then you whisper into the dark, "I'm still here." And the snow doesn't answer, but it listens. The snow lingers for days, then begins to melt slowly, revealing the battered bones of your camp beneath. Mud replaces frost. Boots sink deeper. Tempers shorten. But spring always arrives, eventually, usually muddy, always loud. With the thaw comes activity. The ship is checked for winter damage. The sail is unfurled, stiff but intact. Ragna returns from wherever goats go to spiritually recharge, dragging a stolen mitten in her mouth like a trophy. You help re-oil the hull, patch a tear in your cloak, and dig out the long-forgotten cache of turnips someone buried before the snow. They're not better for the weight. Eric still tries to eat one. "Chewy," he declares. "You're gnawing on a rock," you reply. The village nearby begins to stir too. Messengers from the local chieftain arrive bearing early spring offerings, salted fish, honeyed oats, and one extremely nervous chicken. In return, they ask for news of foreign shores, of enemy movements, of omens. You become, once again, the bearer of stories. In the Longhouse, you recount the raids, the village that surrendered before you even docked, the loot, the fog, the socks, the chicken. Children listen wide-eyed. Elders nod slowly, measuring each word against memory and myth. Someone adds your name to the saga wall, a carved board etched with feats and foolishness alike. You don't ask what they wrote. You're pretty sure it includes the goat. But spring isn't all retellings and repairs. It's also decisions. Ivar gathers the crew one morning with a tone that promises either wisdom or indigestion. "This summer," he says, "we head east." Murmurs ripple through the group. East means rivers, Slavic towns, and, according to Eric, women who use garlic like it's currency. You glance at Astrid. She raises an eyebrow. "You in?" You pause. It's tempting. Always is. The call of the voyage, the unknown, the possibility that somewhere out there is your next great tale. But this time, something's different. You feel it in your limbs, in the red thread you rewove into your braid, in the way your fingers linger on your axe, not out of restlessness, but memory. Historians still argue whether shield maidens settled down or raided, until their last breath. No saga ever agrees. Maybe because both are true. Maybe it's not about choosing one ending, but about knowing when to change chapters. You spend the afternoon walking the edge of the forest, the edge of decision. You remember training in these woods, running drills, sparring beneath frost-covered trees. You remember your first real fight, your first real fear, and the thrill that came after. You return to camp with dirty boots and a quieter heart. That night, as the fire crackles and plans are made for the eastward sail, you speak. "I'll stay." Silence. Then Ivar nods. "It's time," he says. Astrid throws a piece of bread at you. "You'd better visit." Eric offers his onion pillow in mock tribute. Even Leif looks mildly emotional, though it might just be gas. You smile. Don't let the boat sink, or the goat lead. Quirky tidbit of the day. When Vikings retired, or at least paused, from raiding, they often became farmers, merchants, or local leaders. Some even trained the next generation, passing on skills through quiet mornings and exaggerated stories. Over the next weeks, you settle into this new rhythm. You help rebuild the training ring. You take on a few apprentices, young ones eager to hold an axe, and even more eager to drop it on their own foot. You help Thora gather herbs. You spend quiet mornings walking with your mother. You teach Eric how to actually sharpen a blade instead of just emotionally inspiring it. You grow strong again, not in the way of swinging weapons and storming walls, but in stillness, in patience, in laughter. One evening, as dusk falls and the sea turns gold, you sit by the fire and begin carving. It's your own saga board. You carve the Longship, the goat, the chicken, the axe. Then you carve yourself, not in battle, but seated, watching the sea, listening for whatever comes next. Spring deepens. The snow recedes from the hills, replaced by green shoots and small, stubborn flowers poking through the thawed earth. The village hums with renewal. Children chase each other through the mud. Hens lay eggs with renewed commitment. And someone keeps playing the same 4 notes on a flute, like they're unlocking a god-tier secret. Spoiler: they're not. You fall into a rhythm. Mornings are for drills. You teach with the kind of calm authority that makes even the loudest teenagers quiet down. Eventually, you show them how to hold an axe, not as a tool of rage, but of balance. You explain that the real strength isn't in swinging, but in waiting. Afternoons, you help reinforce the Longhouse roofs, fix fishing nets, and consult on whether a goat can, in fact, legally own property. Number. But it's close. Eric continues to compose. His latest verse is about your battle with a turnip thief. It's terrible. You love it. At night, you sit by the fire carving. Your saga board grows. A fox. A frost-dusted forest. The silhouette of your longship slicing through the sea. It's not grand, not carved for kings or gods, but it's yours. Then one morning, a raven lands on your windowsill. It's nothing, probably. Just a bird. Common. Unbothered. But it watches you with the kind of look that says, "I know what you've done." And also, your braid's uneven. You smile. Not everything needs to be a sign. But then you hear the drumbeat of hooves in the distance. A rider approaches. A young woman, breathless, cloak trailing mud and urgency. She leaps from her horse and thrusts a sealed scroll into your hand. The wax is stamped with a sigil you haven't seen in years. A coastal clan, far south, known for their longboats and their arrogance. You break the seal. Read. You sigh. "You've been called," says the rider. "I just finished cleaning the goat pen," you reply. You've been named in a thing, a matter of honor. They ask for your judgment. Of course they do. Historians still argue whether retired warriors ever truly retired, or whether the village always pulled them back in, like a favorite wool tunic that never quite stops itching. You pack slowly. Just a satchel, some dried meat, the red thread braid tied once more. You strap on your axe, not for war, but because old habits die harder than raiders. Astrid appears out of nowhere. So, judge now, are you? Temporarily, you say. I've got goats to get back to. Eric waves a half-carved flute. Bring back stories. Only weird ones. You ride out just before sunset. The path curves along the cliffside, overlooking the sea. Far below, your longship rests like a dream you once had and never quite woke from. The wind rises. You let it carry your thoughts ahead of you. Toward judgment, toward stories, toward whatever happens when the saga continues. But the hero no longer needs to swing to be powerful. You ride alone, but never without echoes, because you were once a shield maiden, and you still are. The horse's hooves soften as the path winds into twilight. The sky glows the color of fading embers, and your thoughts drift like smoke curling from a fire left to sleep. You no longer feel the weight of your axe on your hip. You no longer notice the sway of the road, only the hush of wind through trees, the occasional rustle of feathers in distant branches, and the steady, soothing rhythm of hooves. Each breath deepens now, slower, longer. Your shoulders relax. The world narrows, not in fear, but in comfort, like closing a book at the final chapter and letting your fingers rest on the cover. In the distance, the last shimmer of sun dips beneath the horizon, a final golden wink. Behind you, the sea murmurs, the sound soft as memory. Ahead, the path disappears into gentle dark. You slow your mount, dismount with care, settle on a patch of grass. You tilt your head back and let the stars arrive, one by one. Familiar constellations, all watching, all quiet. You breathe in, and it smells like pine and frost, and stories that haven't been told yet. You are still. You are enough. You are part of the earth now, part of the saga, part of the silence between oars. And as your eyes grow heavy, the last sound you hear is the soft whisper of wind through your braid, still tied with red, still strong, still here. Now, dim the lights and sleep. End of script. Sweet dreams.